hearing from Sven Spieschiger, Managing Entomologist for the department and the Lead Entomologist for the agency's Asian Giant Hornet response. In a few moments, Sven will share information about the first male Asian Giant Hornet trapped in Washington and will be available to take questions. Anne LeBrun from USDA APHIS will also be available for questions. Before we begin, we'd like to share a few reminders. After Sven has provided some basic information, we will open for questions. To ask a question, please use the raise your hand function, and I will call on you and unmute your line so that you can ask your question. Alternatively, you can submit a question using the chat function. Please don't unmute your own line. I will do that for you. This press conference is being live streamed on tvw.org and should be available there after the press conference ends. The press conference will also be available on our website later today. We did issue a press release this morning, which is also available on our website. A link to download photos that can be used with credit to the Washington State Department of Agriculture can be found on the online version of the press release. There's a link at the bottom. I would also like to point you to some helpful resources. The latest information about Asian giant hornets can always be found on WSDA's website at agr.wa.gov/hornets. In addition to the website, you can subscribe to WSDA's news releases, blog, and the pest program email listserv to receive alerts about Asian giant hornets. Links to all of these resources are available on our website, or you can contact me and I can send the links to you to sign up. One other thing we also have is our Asian Giant Hornet Watch Facebook group that you can join. That's it for our introductions. Sven, please go ahead. Let me just get your line unmuted here. Oh, looks like you're ready to go.
Okay, can you hear me? Give me a thumbs up, thumbs down.
I can hear you, but I'm just waiting. There, you've shown up now. We can see you too.
Okay, great. Well, thank you everybody for taking a few moments to join us again today. First, I'll give you a brief update on our earlier announcement of a trapped Asian giant hornet in the Birch Bay area. Since we last spoke, we were able to get confirmation from the USDA that that was in fact an unmated queen. And the greatest likelihood for what that means is that that was a queen that spent the winter not having mated and is not able to form a nest and has now been removed from the population by our trapping program. So our response to that will not be to hang live traps in the area. We will continue to do a delimiting grid around that detection that we had in Birch Bay back on July 14th. On to the new detection. On July 29th, we had one of our WSDA traps collected, and it contained a single specimen of Asian giant hornet, which was immediately identified as a male specimen. This was a little bit of a surprise for us because we know that males and females are generally produced starting around mid-October in the native range, and we would expect the same here. However, further review of the literature, and we received a little bit of commentary by some of our learned colleagues in other USDA departments, was that this is not atypical, that colonies can produce males at any time. And in fact, some of the literature from Japan suggests that it is not uncommon at all to start seeing a few males in the population starting around the first week of August. So July 29th capture of an Asian giant hornet male, although initially surprising to me, was turns out to be pretty normal. We still do not expect to see virgin queens, that is, queens capable of creating new nests next year, sometime till about mid-October. So it's still within the normal. So our response to this, of course, will be to attempt to locate the nest that this came out of. This will be accomplished by hanging a live version of our bottle traps, and that is simply a bottle trap that has wire mesh separating any specimens collected from the bait, which usually kills them. And once a live hornet is captured, we'll be affixing a radio tag and attempting to follow it back to its nest. We may also conduct some visual survey of the area to try to locate the nest visually. This is a little more dangerous and a little lower percentage activity. So, of course, we'd like to rely on the traps for this more than anything else. Once a nest is located, we'll go ahead and we'll implement our eradication strategy, which is simply to work with the property owner to allow us on to cordon the area off and apply our eradication techniques. And so that's where we stand. That's the update that we have for today. Carla, have I forgotten anything?
Nope, I think that's good.
All right. Happy to answer questions.
Yeah, thanks, Sven. We'll now be taking questions. As a reminder, please use the raise your hand function to ask a question. I will call on you and unmute your line so that you can ask that question. Again, please don't unmute your own line just so we avoid conflicting muting and unmuting happening. When your line is unmuted, identify the news organization you are with before asking your question, please. And don't forget that you can also submit your questions using the chat function. Okay, don't see any questions yet. You might get off easy, Sven. Oh, here we go. Don Jenkins, I see your hand raised. I had a little audio issue with you earlier, but I'm going to try and unmute you and see if your audio is working.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Have you settled on the tracking device you're going to use if you catch a live hornet? And have you settled on how you're going to attach it and how you're going to calm it down before you attach it?
Oh, okay. So the question was, if no one else could hear, when we're doing our radio tracking after catching a live hornet, how will we calm it down? We had originally experimented with CO2 gas to anesthetize them for a small period of time. Turns out our native hornets don't do well with this, so we're not going to risk killing an Asian giant hornet that could lead us back to a nest. We're simply going to go with ice inside of a cooler. It worked like a charm on our natives, and we believe it'll do just fine with Asian giant hornet. And some of our Japanese colleagues who have experimented with us have corroborated that this will be a good strategy to use. So, ice packs.
I think he also asked if you decided on what tracking device to use.
Oh, yeah, I believe we're using radio tags in combination with a research lab out of Washington University, or the University of Washington, rather. And we have a few of these right now, and we haven't used them in the field yet. So we're hoping they'll work. If not, again, we'll still have a live trapping array around. And as we get hits in our traps, just as I had explained at the last press conference, we will be able to follow our hits in the traps back to the nest just using the trapping. The radio tag is really a way for us to do it quicker.
Great. And I think when you say just the trapping, I think you mean like triangulating, right? Off of trapple.
Exactly. We'll get multiple hits, and we'll be able to draw, basically we'll be able to draw a line right back to the nest eventually.
And we had a question, have these types of radio tags been used before? If yes, where?
These particular ones have been used basically on smaller beetles and a few other things. Other types of radio tags have been used in Europe, and those are to test for Asian hornet, so not Asian giant hornet, but Vespa velutina, another species entirely. That species nests in the air. We were a little concerned using those, as ours is subterranean, so we're going with this model that Washington, or University of Washington, has presented, because we can get basically GPS blips as it's flying back to the nest and be able to draw a line as well. And so we feel this will be a little better tool for us to use.
Great. Next question, and I apologize if I mispronounce this name. Simony Kim, you are unmuted and can ask your question.
It's Simney Kim from Cairo.
Oh, sorry.
It's quite all right. Thank you for taking my question. I'm curious, is there a sense, since we first learned about these hornets a few months back, is there a sense that you are losing time or racing against the clock to find a live hornet and destroy its nest before it really causes serious damage here in the area?
Yes, in some ways we are always under pressure to make sure that we do this as soon as possible. So it has always been the goal to try to eliminate any nests that may have established this year prior to September 15th. Certainly before October if we can help it. But in a larger sense, not really concerned at all. We weren't really expecting to see hits in any of our traps till about the second week of August. And this would be in keeping with other trapping that's been done in the United States for other Vespa species. And, Vespa mandarinia, we suspect is no different. We suspect we would not actually find live hornets sometime till mid-August in any sort of great numbers. And so having the detections of queens earlier in the spring was a real bonus. It helped us guide resources around even more precisely than what we knew going into the season. And so from that standpoint, no, we're not really feeling the pressure just yet, but that pressure that we want to take care of them before they kick out breeding cast has always been there since day one, and it's always our goal to meet that benchmark, if you will. Right now, I'm actually encouraged that the traps are picking things up. I was not expecting to see a male this early, but according to the literature, it's perfectly normal, and it gives us a heads up that there is a nest in that area.
Great. Next, we have Nick with Como. You're unmuted.
Hi there. Thanks so much. You kind of answered my question, but a different question I had is by finding one earlier, finding a male hornet earlier, does this make you feel like you're a little bit ahead of the game, that you're able to kind of find someone before you thought you would find a specific hornet? And then when in the calendar year do you start getting a little nervous if you haven't found a nest specifically? Are we thinking in a few months or in October? When does it become a little nerve-wracking if the nest hasn't been found?
Okay, excellent question. So the first question, finding a male early is just, to me, a sign that the traps are actually working pretty well. I wouldn't expect that there would be too many males out. Certainly the literature says it would be one of just a few that would be out this time of year. So if a trap is able to pull it in, it just means we have another tool we can draw on. So for me, that's really good news. Second of all, kind of the drop dead date for me is October. We started having reports of bee kills, some of them confirmed, starting in the month of October, and that's really what we're trying to prevent. We do not want any more of our beekeepers suffering losses if at all possible. And of course, finding and eliminating a nest near apiaries is going to prevent that. But more importantly, when they go into that phase where they start attacking apiaries, then we start to worry that they're starting to produce breeding cast, and then we have a very limited amount of time to locate the nest and stop them from kicking out new colonies for the next season. So hope that answers your question.
I appreciate it.
Yep. You're muted, Carla.
I apologize. I'm sorry. Question, given the number and type of specimens found so far, can you speculate on the number of potential nests that there might be in Washington?
I would say the drone is evidence of one for sure. It is extremely unlikely, at least it's never been documented, that males are able to overwinter. And so we would be very shocked if that came from a nest last year or hitched a ride over from Japan or Korea in this time. So to me, that is evidence of at least one nest in the area. What we had turned into us last year suggests that there were probably two nests at least, and each of those is capable of kicking out at least 200 queens. And obviously, since our detection did not come until well after breeding cast would have been produced last year, there is the potential to find that many. The reality is, even in its native range where it does well, and we don't know how well it will do here in the Pacific Northwest, a very low percentage of all of those that are produced actually survive to create new nests. And so as many as 400, but right now, in reality, it's probably just a handful. And the trapping network produced by the public and by WSDA employees and our cooperators should really help us to identify where, if at all, we have nests to deal with this year. Certainly the Custer area is an area we're adding extra traps to right now.
That's actually a great segue into our next question, which is how many total traps have been deployed by WSDA and private citizens and cooperators?
Okay. Let's see if I actually have that open right now, and I think I do. And I can give you the actual numbers here if you just bear with me for 1 second. All right. So actual WSDA traps, as my computer spins and spins because I'm live streaming to you right now, I believe is 467. And a combination of cooperators and the general public is, and it's spinning again. You just have to give me 1 moment. We have 318 cooperator traps, and then public bottle traps is 1,477. And that's how many traps. So a little under or a little over 1,800 traps, mostly in Whatcom and Skagit counties, but certainly surrounding the entire Puget Sound, which is where we suspect we may have issues due to the fines in Nanaimo and the fact that it probably came over with international shipping of some kind.
Great. I don't see any questions at the moment. Just one quick reminder while people get your hand up or put your question in the chat box real quick. Just remember, August and September are the months when residents are most likely to see Asian giant hornets. So we really particularly appreciate your continued coverage of this story and creating public awareness around Asian giant hornets. Just wanted to mention that. Is that you ringing, Sven?
I'm afraid it is. I'm working from home and I have no control over the house phone. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I just didn't know if I had somebody else unmuted that I needed to try and find. There was another question that came in. Is there a focus of trapping around honeybee colonies? And maybe wait till the phone's done ringing before you answer that.
Yep.
I'm sorry. This is the reality of working from home.
Well, it doesn't sound like anybody's leaving a message, so that's good news. All right, Carla, the question again.
Is there a focus on trapping around honeybee colonies?
Oh, well, obviously, we've been working with like Mount Baker Beekeepers Club, certainly gone through the State Beekeepers Association. We've definitely distributed message through the honeybee hive registration system that we have here in the state, and have definitely created extra outreach for the beekeeping community. And we have had an excellent response, in my opinion, and we have been working very much with beekeepers. In fact, the trap selection itself was selected specifically because that bait combination is supposed to not be entirely attractive to honeybees so that we could have a safe trap to use around apiaries. And so the focus has not been entirely right there. It's more of a spatial grid based on how far a typical Asian giant hornet can forage. And so we're going out 8 kilometers from areas where we know it to have been located or we had actual specimens collected. And so we have kind of a random patchwork going 8 kilometers out. So within any grid, our trappers are basically asked to pick an area that is near a tree line of suitable habitat. Past that, the general public is welcome to if they own an apiary, get hive or get traps up and around their apiaries, and we've had several beekeepers that have done so. And we believe this will provide an early warning in case their hive is attacked. But the reality is, at the end of the day, they are the best food source out there in the fall. And a lot of the effort we're doing is specifically to protect those apiaries. But the trapping grids themselves do not focus specifically on apiaries, more suitable nesting habitat.
Thanks, Sven. I think that wraps up the questions. I'd like to thank everyone. If you need further information, I'll be happy to assist you, and I think everybody has my contact information. And once again, we really appreciate your continued coverage of the Asian giant hornet story. Thanks very much, everyone, and have a great day.
Thank you.